Have you ever wanted to go backpacking but stayed home because you didn't have anybody to go with? If that's the case, then this video is for you. I am in the midst of preparing for my next backpacking trip, which is coming up in just a few weeks, and this time I'm going solo. If you watched my Pinhoti thru hike attempt, which ended up just being the first half of the Pinhoti, you know that I went with a friend who I met on the Colorado Trail. And last summer when I did the Colorado Trail, I did most of it as a solo backpacker. A few things happened along the way that made me decide I wanted to hike with somebody for the conclusion of that trip, and so Gunslinger and I got together and that's what we did. I am very excited about my upcoming trip, which is going to be a thru hike of the Tahoe Rim Trail, and the fact that I'm going to be doing that solo. There are definitely a lot of joys and benefits of being a solo backpacker, and I know that a lot of people are kind of afraid to get started doing that. Other people have told me that the only way that they can go backpacking is if they go solo because they can't find somebody to go with them, or that their friends don't enjoy backpacking, or that schedules don't line up, that sort of thing. So let's talk about what it takes to become a confident solo backpacker so that you can get out there on your own and have an absolutely marvelous time. So what are some of the benefits of backpacking alone or backpacking solo? First and foremost, I think, is the ability to just enjoy the solitude. It's just you and nature. So if you get out and you're miles from civilization and you're on a trail, camping by yourself, hiking by yourself, you can really enjoy just the absolute peace and quiet of nature, the nature sounds, the sounds of the birds, sounds of the animals, things like that. And it really, I think, just does something for the soul to be out there alone, just you and nature, you and the earth, and give you time to really just think, especially if you're going through something, the ability to just think, to process, to contemplate, to make big decisions, to think about things that maybe have happened in the past that have troubled you. I really think there's a huge mental health benefit for being out alone in the wilderness, but it's something that kind of comes at a little bit of a price because you have to develop the confidence to do that. And for some people that kind of comes naturally. For other people, it's pretty scary to go out by yourself. Once you learn how to do it, you really can just soak up all of that solitude, that beneficial solitude, and the ability to just become one with nature, which can be really restorative to your spirit. Another great benefit of backpacking alone and hiking solo is that you get to set the pace. Not only the pace while you're hiking, but you get to decide when you're going to go. When you are trying to coordinate with one or more people for a backpacking trip, if you've ever done this, you know it can get really complicated, and sometimes people end up dropping out at the last minute and just leaving you hanging. That actually happened to me very early on when I was just learning to backpack. I was supposed to be backpacking with a group and the leader dropped out, so the trip got canceled, and I was super frustrated because I had been looking forward to it for a long time. I had traveled quite a ways to get close to the trailhead for the start the next morning, and it just really let me down. When you're backpacking solo, the only person you can let down is you. So you get to decide if you want to go, you get to decide if the weather is favorable to you, you get to decide what your route is going to be, you get to decide how long it's going to take you, how often you want to stop, if you want to sit and enjoy the views, if you want to swim in a mountain lake. You get to do all those things without having to consult anybody else when you're backpacking solo. And the third big benefit of backpacking solo is that you get to really embrace the sense of self-reliance that comes from doing something like that on your own. I have learned through my career in backpacking that I'm a lot stronger than I give myself credit for. When you're out there by yourself, there is nobody else to rely on. So number one, you have everything you need with you, and you have to plan to make sure that that's the case. But also, if something happens, you're the one who's going to figure it out. Or if you encounter a big obstacle, like I remember there were times on the AT where I just looked up at these big rocks that I had to scramble up, and I thought, I can't do that. And that was my first thought, I can't do that. And then I sat there for a minute and I thought, you know what, if I don't do it, I got to turn around and go home, and who knows how many miles I got to hike back, and I'm not going to do that. So I found that inner strength and that confidence within myself. Sometimes I didn't get it till I actually reached the top because I just didn't know if I could do it. But testing yourself that way and really figuring out what you're made of, that you've got strength that you didn't give yourself credit for, that's a really valuable lesson that you can learn from backpacking alone. So if you've never backpacked by yourself, how do you get ready for it? If you're used to backpacking in groups or never going out until somebody's ready to go with you, whether that's a partner or a friend, a relative, it doesn't really matter. If you're used to having somebody with you, you got to start by asking yourself, well, what is different about that situation versus solo backpacking? Like, are you depending on somebody else to make the plans, to set the schedule, to coordinate the logistics? If that's the case, those are all things that you're going to have to figure out how to do for yourself, right? So make a list of those things that maybe you've been a little bit lax in taking responsibility for, and things that you're going to have to practice doing as you start to backpack solo. Depending on how comfortable you are with going solo, I probably wouldn't recommend tackling a really long trip by yourself unless it's something like the Appalachian Trail where you're going in the bubble and you're going to meet a whole bunch of people. I think it's a lot better just to start small. If you've never camped by yourself, you could just go to a state park and reserve a campsite and spend the night there just to see what it feels like to be alone. Then you could take maybe a little bit longer trip, like take a backcountry site instead of a site at an established campground, and hike in for a mile or two and spend the night. And then you know you've got an out. If for some reason you get really spooked at night or you just feel really uncomfortable, you can always get up and hike back to the car, right? So it's nice to just be able to kind of take those baby steps and develop that confidence as you go, rather than just jumping in head first and potentially being on a much more difficult trail or a much longer trip where you want to get out and you just don't know how to do that. If you're enjoying this video, I hope that you'll take just a moment to hit that subscribe button. That's a great way of letting YouTube know that my videos are worthwhile and encourages them to share them with other people, which is always nice. So picking a well-trafficked trail is another strategy that can help you become more confident, because as you're out there, you will meet other hikers. You can talk to other hikers. You can find out where they're going, find out what the terrain is like. And hikers in general are a pretty friendly bunch. I mean, you may not have connections with everybody that you meet, or people might just kind of grunt at you or not even look at you. That happens sometimes. But when you're out there by yourself, it's really easy to just kind of strike up a conversation with somebody, especially if they're hiking along the same direction you are. If you happen to kind of take a break in the same place, you can get to know other people and you can learn from their experience. And if they're hiking solo, you ask them what's working for them or why they're out there by themselves, if that seems appropriate. If you're a guy and you meet a woman who's backpacking alone, you might not want to ask that question because it might make her a little uncomfortable. So that is something to be sensitive to. You don't want to cross a comfort zone with somebody, but at the same time, if you just want to strike up a conversation, have a little chat, see what you can learn, then go for it. Another strategy is to maybe start with a friend, but say, you know what, we're going to hike alone during the daytime and we're going to meet up in the evening to camp, or we're going to meet up for a break. And that gives you a chance to see what is it like being on a trail by yourself, especially if you're backpacking and you've got your full pack on. How do you feel? Do you feel stronger when you're by yourself? Are you a little bit apprehensive or maybe even afraid when you hear noises in the woods? Then that tells you that those are things that you need to work on to get over that so you can really enjoy backpacking by yourself. So when you get ready to go out on that first trip backpacking alone, one of the things that you should do is make sure that somebody knows where you're going to be. Just in case there is a problem, you want people to be able to track you down. So you could tell them what trailhead you're going to, what your expected destination is, and when you're expecting to be back. And if you don't have a friend or family member that you feel comfortable sharing that information with, you at the very least could just write it on a piece of paper, fold it up and put it in your car, because God forbid something does happen, when the authorities find your car, they can look at that information and understand where they should be looking for you. But that is not to scare you, because things like that happen very, very rarely. And for the most part, anybody who goes out hiking on a well-traveled trail and goes out for a night or two of backpacking or even a longer trip, doesn't have any problems like that at all. But it doesn't hurt to play it safe. So I encourage people to do that just for your own peace of mind as well, that you know that somebody would come looking for you if something happened. Along those same lines, I would highly encourage you to carry a satellite communicator like an inReach or one of the other devices that you can buy. I know that phones pretty soon are going to have some of that satellite communication capability, but I've heard of a lot of people who have lost their phone or dropped their phone down a hill, down a mountain even, and then you are out of luck. So the nice thing about the satellite communicator is that it's typically attached to your pack with a carabiner. So if you fall, as long as your pack stays with you, you're going to have access to that device. Or if something else happens, if your phone dies, if your phone breaks, whatever, you've got basically a redundancy. So you have two ways to communicate, assuming that you do have cell service and satellite service. do a lot of research about the trail that you're going to be taking and where you're going so that you know what to expect in terms of water sources. If it's a long trip, then where are the towns where you can resupply? Where are there road crossings where you might be able to get off trail if you need to? What's the cell service like? Ask other hikers or look in Facebook groups and see what people say so you have some level of expectation of, am I going to be completely out of reach or am I going to be able to phone home? That sort of thing can give you a level of comfort that you might need in terms of feeling that you can reach out to people if you get a little anxious while you're on the trail. Find out about those kinds of things. Take a paper map with you. I know a lot of people don't want to take maps. They're like, well, I have my phone, but if you can get a map of the area that you're in, it's nice because you can spread it out and you can get a big high level view of the area where you're backpacking. And then you can see not only this is the trail that I'm taking, but you know, here there's a town over here, there's a town this way, there's a road that goes down there. So if something happens and I need to get off, kind of knowing where the outs are potentially really can give you a lot more confidence of backpacking, that you know where you're going, what you're doing, and what the scenario is most likely going to be like, even if things don't go according to plan. Maybe it's just weather. Maybe you're expecting beautiful weather and all of a sudden, you know, a big cold front comes through and you're just getting drenched and you're freezing and you want to get off trail. That's totally fine as long as you know where to do it and it doesn't become a big ordeal or something that makes you really, really uncomfortable, because an experience like that might turn you off from backpacking. But if you know what to do, you feel confident, you'll learn that you're strong, you'll learn that you're capable, and you'll be ready to go back the next time. Just prepare for those contingencies. Now in the summertime, of course, the days tend to be longer. Here in Colorado, it's getting light at 5 o'clock in the morning and it stays light till almost 9 o'clock at night. That's a really long day. And if you are not that comfortable hiking all day long, you may find yourself in camp with nothing to do. You might say, I'm going to hike, 10 or 12 miles, and you get to camp at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you're like, what am I doing? So take a book, or you can download some videos on your phone to watch even when you're not connected to cell service. You could take a little game to play solitaire with a pack of cards, journal. There's so many things that you can do in camp, but make sure that you have something to entertain yourself while you are there. Maybe you don't want to do anything other than just sit outside and listen to nature. That's fine. You take videos or photos on your phone. You want to scroll through those. That's fine too. But you might wake up at 2 in the morning and go, well, now what do I do? So having some kind of, personal entertainment can help to alleviate some of that, anxiety if you're hearing noises and that sort of thing. You're like, I just need to take my mind off that. I know it's nothing, but it's making me uncomfortable. Having, some music, having a video, something like that can be helpful just to kind of take the edge off a little bit until you get more comfortable being outside, camping outside by yourself. So bring some entertainment, and I think that will help you enjoy the trip a little bit more. And you may find that you don't use it at all, but having it along is, again, something that's going to give you a little bit more comfort and confidence as you backpack alone. So those are my quick tips for developing confidence in backpacking solo. It's something that you really just have to get out and do to learn whether you enjoy it or not. And if you're not really enjoying it, give yourself a couple of trips and take some of these baby steps that I've described. You just may find that you need to practice a little bit to become more comfortable. I do firmly believe that anybody can become comfortable backpacking solo if you are truly well prepared. Make sure that you take all these steps, that you do your research, that you've got the right gear, that you know where you're going to go, and then just get out there and do it and have a great time. And if you do go out on your first backpacking trip alone after watching this video, drop me a note below and let me know how it goes. Let me know also if you have any tips or other ideas of things that I didn't cover as part of this video, maybe the things that I should have covered, or questions that you have that you'd like me to cover in the future. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for spending a little time with me. I'll look forward to seeing you here again next time.